My name is Carrera Finley. I'm 31, an interior designer in Santa Fe. Last Thanksgiving, I walked into my parents' dining room after a 70-hour workweek, 3 hotel contracts waiting on my desk, and our family art supply store quietly losing money. Dad didn't even look up. "You missed the acrylic inventory update." Then Sawyer swept in, glowing from a $3,000 spa weekend Mom and Dad had gifted her. Dad smiled wide. "How is the facial, princess?" I snapped. "So, I work while she relaxes?" Dad finally locked eyes with me. "Your job is to work while your sister enjoys life."
Simple as that.
"If you don't like it, there's the door." I shoved my chair back.
Fine.
"I'll leave, and you can start paying your own bills." Simple as that. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment with the city and state you're watching from. Let me know where this hits you. The real storm started long before that table. Growing up in Santa Fe's dusty art district, favoritism was woven in before I even knew the word. At 11, I entered the New Mexico Young Designers Challenge run by the state AIA chapter, submitting scaled floor plans for a community art center using only recycled materials. My entry won regional honors and hung at the Roundhouse for a month. I rushed home with a certificate, hoping for at least a photo. Dad skimmed it, set it down, and said, "Good. Now restock the watercolor pads before dinner." 3 months later, my sister Sawyer, 8 at the time, finger-painted a sunset on butcher paper in art class. Her teacher sent it home. Mom framed it and hung copies in both store locations. That night, we drove to our favorite enchilada spot on Cerrillos Road. Sawyer got a new iPad loaded with drawing apps. I got extra chores for distracting the staff with my excitement. Chores became my second language early. By 12, I restocked acrylics before school, scrubbed dried paint off pallets after dinner, and hauled trash bags heavier than me to the alley dumpster. Dad's logic never changed. Sawyer was busy with her art. If brushes needed cleaning or canvas shipments arrived, it was my job. I learned to balance ladders while touching up the store's exterior mural, skills no kid should need. Sawyer's contributions were occasional doodles Mom laminated and sold as postcards. Customers cooed over her natural talent, buying 3 at a time. I watched the register ring while my own sketches collected dust in a drawer. Our bedrooms told the same story. The house sat behind the store, a low adobe with creaky pine floors. When we stopped sharing, Dad turned the old storage shed into my room. Bare bulb, cracked concrete, shelves of forgotten sketch pads. Sawyer claimed the upstairs corner room with the arched window facing the cottonwoods. Mom added a drafting table, track lighting, and a lock for her supplies. I got a futon and a milk crate nightstand. Weekends meant longer shifts at the register. At 14, I ran the weekend cashier shift alone, counting change, wrapping brushes, answering endless oil versus watercolor questions. Tips went into a jar labeled college. Dad praised my reliability to customers, then handed Sawyer $100 for new markers. She bought glitter pens that dried out in a week. The pattern hardened like oil paint. I organized sidewalk sales, designed window displays that doubled foot traffic, and taught myself inventory software on a second-hand laptop. Sawyer drifted in now and then, rearranged a shelf for inspiration, then vanished to sketch at the plaza. Relatives noticed. Aunt Violet once muttered, "That girl's got 2 left feet and a silver spoon." Mom silenced her fast. By high school, the back room became my second home. I redesigned layouts to fit more easels, negotiated bulk discounts, and built a loyalty program that boosted repeat customers by 30%. Dad called it good practice. Sawyer brought home C's in math, but her charcoal portraits won blue ribbons at the state fair. Each win meant another family outing, green chili cheeseburgers, bowling, whatever she wanted. I learned the lesson early. My worth came from what I produced. Hers came from what she dreamed. The college jar grew heavier, and so did the weight on my shoulders. High school widened the divide until I couldn't ignore it. I worked 2 part-time jobs around a full course load to chase my dream of studying interior design at Savannah College of Art and Design. Afternoons meant catering private events in the foothills after last period, balancing trays of hors d'oeuvres while reviewing floor plans on my phone. Evenings meant delivery runs for the store 3 nights a week, navigating Santa Fe's narrow streets with boxes of spray paint and gesso rattling in the trunk. Every dollar went toward application fees, portfolio prints, and the growing stack of acceptance letters I prayed would change everything. Sawyer, meanwhile, coasted through school with minimal effort. Her junior year, Mom and Dad announced a surprise, a full year studying painting in Florence, Italy. Every expense covered, plus a shiny red Vespa to zip through cobblestone alleys. They called it essential for her artistic growth. I did the math in my head, tuition, housing, flights, scooter, insurance, and felt the numbers burn. My own SCAD deposit meant another summer of double shifts. Next came the pop-up gallery. Sawyer returned from Europe buzzing with ideas for a temporary downtown exhibition. Dad saw promise where I saw risk. They remortgaged the house to secure a 6-month lease on a prime Canyon Road location, complete with custom lighting and imported display cases. Opening night drew crowds sipping wine and praising Sawyer's abstract oils. Sales trickled in, then stopped completely. Suppliers demanded payment for frames and stretchers. 6 months later, the doors closed with $20,000 in losses. Dad brushed it off as a learning curve. I found the remortgage paperwork while organizing tax files. The monthly payment had jumped $800. Mom said they needed the equity to give Sawyer a real shot. My student loans were already at $30,000, interest growing faster than I could pay. Still, I wired $1,800 home each month from freelance work, covering the higher mortgage while chipping away at my own debt. College acceptances arrived senior year. SCAD offered a partial scholarship, but the gap was huge. I spent graduation weekend serving cake at a classmate's party instead of attending my own. Dad texted, "Proud of you for being responsible." Sawyer posted photos from a post-graduation trip to Tulum, captioned with paintbrush emojis. At SCAD, I lived in a cramped dorm, sketching until dawn and interning for credit. Sawyer enrolled in community college back home, then dropped most classes after the withdrawal deadline. Mom called it exploring options. Store profits dipped as online competitors undercut prices, but Dad kept funding Sawyer's latest idea: hand-painted scarves that never made it past prototypes. My senior thesis earned top honors, a sustainable gallery redesign using reclaimed Adobe materials. Professors connected me with Atlanta firms. I graduated with honors, $45,000 in debt, and a $52,000 job offer. Sawyer celebrated my commencement by announcing her engagement to a photographer she met at a workshop. Mom offered to host the party at the store. The monthly transfers continued. I told myself it was family stability, even as my savings stayed empty. Dad's emails grew shorter, always ending with wedding updates. I designed the invitations for free using overstock paper. The $15,000 ceremony hit the business account I helped balance. By last Thanksgiving, the resentment had hardened into something volatile. I'd pulled an all-nighter redesigning the showroom for the holiday rush, modular displays, LED lighting, smooth traffic flow, while finishing 3 hotel renderings for an Albuquerque client, emailed at 2:30 a.m. Exhaustion weighed heavy as I drove over, though the turkey smelled good. Dad greeted me holding deviled eggs. "You're late. The acrylic shipment came in yesterday." Still no inventory update. I bit my tongue and headed inside. Sawyer arrived fashionably late in a camel designer coat, dropping a shopping bag on the counter. She lifted out a pristine white Hermes Kelly. Mom and Dad surprised me after my Sedona spa weekend. The $3,000 retreat had gone on the family card. Mom smiled. She earned it after closing that influencer deal. The deal barely covered gas. I set down the casserole. "So let me get this straight," I said, voice steady. I redesigned the showroom, managed suppliers, and closed 6-figure contracts while Sawyer gets a luxury bag and a spa trip for posting photos. Dad set his fork down. "Your job is to work while your sister enjoys life."
Simple as that.
"If you don't like it, there's the door." The room froze. Sawyer smirked. Something in me snapped. "If that's how it is," I said, pushing back my chair. I grabbed my keys from the hook by the fridge. The same hook where Sawyer's childhood artwork still hung, neatly laminated. Mom's voice cracked behind me. Kara, honey, sit down. We're grateful. Really? Tears welled up, but they felt performative, the same kind she used whenever Sawyer missed curfew. Sawyer rolled her eyes and muttered something about drama queens. Dad stood there, face reddening. After everything we've done for you, he called as I headed down the hallway. I was already at the front door, boots crunching over fallen pine needles from the porch wreath. Cold November air slapped my face as I slid into my car, the engine roaring loud enough to drown out Mom's final plea. I drove the 20 minutes to Drake Owen's apartment on the south side, hands gripping the wheel until my knuckles went white. Drake, my boyfriend of 2 years, opened the door in sweats, concern written all over his face. He didn't ask questions. He pulled me in, handed me chamomile tea, and let the silence sit until I was ready to talk. The turkey went cold on their table. I didn't look back. 2 days later, the fallout truly began. I woke to an email from the bank's loan servicing department, a formal notice of intent to foreclose if past due mortgage payments weren't brought current within 30 days. The attached PDF listed 3 missed payments totaling over $5,000 plus late fees. Dad had never mentioned falling behind, but the remortgage from Sawyer's failed gallery had pushed them to the edge. I saved the email without replying, then blocked access to the store's accounting software on my laptop. By week's end, the store lost its annual contract with Santa Fe Public Schools. The district buyer called me directly, explaining they couldn't renew without updated purchase orders and inventory proof. The deal was worth $12,000. Dad left a voicemail blaming supply chain issues, but the real issue was unpaid vendor bills stacked on his desk. Sawyer's influencer gigs dried up almost overnight. Her last sponsored post barely hit 500 likes, and the brand backed out. With no income and rent due, she packed designer suitcases into her leased SUV and moved back into the basement. Mom texted a photo of Sawyer's old twin bed with fresh sheets and a heart emoji. I left it on read. The calls started that afternoon and didn't stop. 47 in total. Dad's first voicemail came at 8:30 a.m., demanding I come back and fix the books. Mom followed, softer but heavy with guilt, talking about her back and heavy boxes. Sawyer waited until evening, pitching a new pop-up idea and asking for $10,000. I deleted it and blocked her number. Drake watched the notifications stack up while we cooked pasta. He suggested silencing my phone, but I left it on vibrate, the constant buzzing like a headache. Dad escalated to texts with overdue bills and photos of an empty register. Mom sent articles about adult children abandoning parents. Sawyer even called Drake, brushing it off as family investment drama. 3 weeks in, the main supplier cut off credit. No more shipments until $9,000 cleared. Dad's credit score had tanked, and the bank denied a loan. His next voicemail was quiet. "The lights stay on because of you. Please come fix this." Mom texted a doctor's appointment confirmation, degenerative disc disease, manageable but costly. Sawyer posted a filtered story from the basement, paint-splattered overalls captioned, "Back to basics." I spent evenings reviewing my own finances. My projects were stable. The silence spoke for me. A month later, Aunt Violet arrived unannounced, flying in from Tucson. She showed up mid-morning with rental car keys and a thick manila envelope. Over coffee, she slid IRS letters across my kitchen table. The notice detailed a $50,000 deficiency from the gallery 3 years earlier. Dad had inflated deductions for expenses that never produced revenue. The audit flagged mismatches, triggering penalties and interest. Aunt Violet said Mom had listed her as a backup contact. "They're drowning," she said, tapping the page. "The mortgage is eating 80% of the store's income. Without your monthly transfers." There were 2 missed payments from default. That afternoon, Dad called from the store landline, the first time in weeks. His voice cracked. "Violet told us she's seen you. We're not asking for money. Just come back for 1 month. Fix the books. Get us through tax season. The accountant we hired botched everything." Mom joined on speaker, her breathing heavy. Your aunt agrees it's temporary. We'll pay you consultant rates once cash flow stabilizes. Sawyer's voice floated in from the background, suggesting I could work remotely a few hours a week. Their pleas layered over one another like overlapping brushstrokes. I listened until they ran out of words, then ended the call with a simple no. Drake watched from the doorway, arms crossed, silent until the line went dead. That evening, I drafted an email from my professional account, formal notice of financial separation. I outlined the termination of all monetary support, revocation of access to shared accounts, and a request for no further contact regarding business matters. I attached the bank notice for reference and hit send to Dad, Mom, and the store inbox. Sawyer tried Drake's number next, pitching a new online watercolor course. He played it on speaker while we ate takeout burritos, then deleted it without reply. Aunt Violet stayed for dinner, sharing stories of Mom's failed craft fair attempts in the 80s, patterns I knew all too well. Before leaving for her hotel, she hugged me tight. You're not the family, ATM. They'll figure it out or they won't. I walked her to the elevator, the envelope tucked under my arm like evidence. The next morning, I changed my phone plan, forwarding only work contacts. Dad's final text came before the switch, a photo of the empty invoice store captioned, "This is on you." I blocked the thread and powered off the old SIM. Peace settled in layers, the quiet notifications first, then the mental space to focus on hotel deadlines. 6 months passed in a blur of progress and finality. I closed on a 2-bedroom condo downtown, 3 blocks from the historic plaza, high adobe ceilings, corner Kiva fireplace, and a private balcony framing the Sangre de Cristo peaks. The purchase price hit $425,000, well within my new budget. After the resort contract, my firm secured the full interior redesign for El Monte Sagrado, a 5-star property in TA, with 40 guest suites demanding hand-woven Zapotec rugs, reclaimed pinion beams, and custom turquoise inlaid vanities. The scope pushed my salary from $92,000 to $129,000 with performance bonuses tied to LEED certification milestones. Drake helped unload the last moving box, then dropped to one knee on the bare oak floor, sliding a ring onto my finger, white gold with a single New Mexico turquoise stone. Dad and Mom liquidated the art supply store to a regional franchise in Albuquerque. The buyer assumed inventory at 60 cents on the dollar, just enough to clear the IRS lien. After fees, they walked away with $4,300 in pocket change. They relocated to an 800-square-foot, 1-bedroom unit near the rail yard. Thin walls, rent capped at $1,500 a month. Dad, 62, accepted a night shift with FedEx Ground, scanning and loading packages from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. at $21.50 per hour. Health insurance kicked in after 90 days, something the store never offered. Mom claimed a permit on Canyon Road every weekend, propping a folding easel against the adobe wall to display 8 by 10 watercolors of adobe doorways and chili restauras. Tourist traffic brought $60 to $120 on strong weekends, enough for groceries and occasional prescriptions. She texted a photo of her first $50 sale, a sunset over the Yemens, but the message returned undeliverable. Sawyer started at Hobby Lobby on Cerrillos Road as a cashier at $13.25 per hour. 2 months of perfect attendance led to a promotion, custom orders, measuring, matting, and assembling shadow boxes for sports memorabilia. Employee discounts let her experiment on personal projects. After work, she enrolled in an evening class at Santa Fe Community College, paying tuition from her paycheck. Her Instagram became raw, behind-the-scenes clips, cutting glass, mixing tints, narrating mistakes. Followers climbed past 3,000. Drawn to the unfiltered grind, I severed all remaining ties, deleted the family Dropbox, removed myself from the vendor portal, changed my mailing address at the post office. Final communication went certified mail, a single firm letterhead page. Love isn't one-way labor. I wish you growth, but from a distance. This is permanent. The green card came back signed by Mom 3 days later. I filed it and never looked again. Drake and I hosted a housewarming on the balcony with string lights and green chili stew. Colleagues from the resort toasted with local sparkling wine. My portfolio now included commercial lobbies in Albuquerque and a boutique hotel in Denver. Travel plans replaced emergency fund transfers, Santa Barbara in spring, Portugal next winter. Mental bandwidth once consumed by supplier invoices now fueled mood boards and material samples. Some doors closed to open entire worlds. I didn't abandon them. I stopped paying for their mistakes. Dad learned punctuality under fluorescent warehouse lights. Mom discovered market value in her brush strokes. Sawyer built competence, one precise cut at a time. Consequences taught what indulgence never could. Thank you for staying with me to the end of this story. If it hit home, drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done at that Thanksgiving table? Your take matters.